Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Tuesday, January the 27th. Big week coming into the markets. We have FOMC tomorrow, of course, with Jerome Powell speaking, and then we have a bunch of earnings on Thursday and Friday here as well. So action packed coming into this week. So far, the overall markets, we're kind of grinding towards the upside pre-FOMC. We're having a little bit of a gap up in the overnight session as well. So we'll kind of talk about the levels, of course, coming into today. There is tons of things to talk about. Unfortunately, I was not able to make the pre-market prep yesterday, but we're back today. As I mentioned, there's a lot of things to go over. So we'll head on to the economic calendar here in a second, and then we'll of course head on to the charts. Yeah, absolutely freezing, by the way, up in Canada, which is crazy. We got a crazy snowstorm over the weekend, which is absolutely ridiculous. But hope you guys are doing well. Good morning, Victor, Andreas, B. Roots, TW, Cody. What's up, everyone? Good morning, Lamit. Previous day highs. I'll answer that one in a bit. Good morning, KO. Chen, Martin, 50, Ryan, Sinna. Good morning, Chris, Anna, Robert, I am, Jim, Deuce. Good morning, Arnold, Gerald, Stal, Ashley, Big, Cosmic, Wakey. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Let's get right into the economic calendar. As I mentioned, we do have tons of things to go over this week. So let's actually just hop right into the economic calendar. We'll head on to the earnings calendar, and then we'll head on to the charts. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Okay, first things first, as you can see right here, we do have consumer sentiment. That is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Usually this is a red folder news event, but currently it is an orange folder. President Trump should be speaking here as well. I'll actually give you guys an update. As for tomorrow, this is going to be key. So we have Fed speaking tomorrow. We have FOMC statement at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we do have Jerome Powell. He's going to be speaking at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's what we have tomorrow. This is going to be the big day. Currently, the overall market is slowly grinding up pre-FOMC. Fairly bullish here. So the overall market, we are actually at a key level of resistance, which is our 628 on the QQQ. We'll kind of talk about what to expect here pre-FOMC. Before actually FOMC, specifically tomorrow, it might be a little bit harder to trade. So today with the gap up, it might be a little bit more difficult here as well. So we'll kind of talk about the levels in a second, but this is what we have for Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have unemployment right now, right at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, on Friday, we have core PPI, which is normally on a Thursday, which is an interesting day at 8:30, but we do have core PPI here on Friday. So as I mentioned, action-packed coming into this week. As for the economic calendar, and then let's go into the earnings calendar here. So this is the earnings calendar for a bunch of big tech reporting. The main things here is going to be Wednesday. As you can see, Wednesday, Microsoft. We also have Meta, and then we have Tesla. So we have three big tech reporting here on Thursday. And then the big one here is, of course, Apple. On Thursday, we have SNDK, we have SoFi on Friday. So we have a lot of big names reporting here. So just keep this in mind if you're trading any of these names. Maybe if you have some long-term positions, or maybe if you're swing positions, or even if you're day trading these names, especially the day before, maybe a few days before, it's good to understand because a lot of times the moves will happen after earnings and the IV will be super high a couple days before earnings. So you just want to be a little bit more cautious. So this is what we have for the earnings calendar. If you guys want to find this, you can just search up earnings calendar on Twitter. You can search this up on Google and you'll be able to find this. That's what we have for the economic calendar plus the earnings calendar. Now let's head right on to the charts. Let's first start off on the major indices. And then of course, we'll work our way down to the tech names, and then we'll go on to some other names here as well. All right, let me grab some water here real quick and we'll get started. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Good morning. Negative 10 degrees and 21 inches of snow and more coming. Yeah, so much snow, especially in Canada. I think everywhere. I'm not sure. I forget where it came from, but I know some parts of the United States got hit pretty hard as well. All right, let's head on to the Yes. So first things first, as you can see here for the overall market, let's go on to the price action that we have coming to this week. So as you can see here for the ES, we end up having that nice opening push on Monday. And I can see on Tuesday, we end up having this nice retest. So really coming into today, we end up having that nice retest specifically on the NQ. And now we're kind of gravitating up into a key resistance level on the NQ. As for the ES, now we're having this nice push towards the upside. The key levels that we're going to have marked out coming into today in specific is going to be this Monday's highs that we can draw out and drag over. So as you can see right here, what we have coming into today is going to be that 6992. So this is going to be your previous day highs. If you do want to see any sort of continuation towards the upside, we really like to see longs above your previous day highs for continuation. Another possible scenario, of course, is going to be above your pre-market highs for this push up and towards our last week's highs, which in this case is our 7028. I actually think this is not your last week's highs. I just think I have this label marked out. Yeah, sorry. This is going to be your high from a couple weeks ago. But regardless, this is a higher time frame key level, 7028. We can be looking for longs above this or now above your pre-market high for continuation. As for the overall market, I am not that interested in shorts just because the higher time frame, as I mentioned, is fairly bullish. We'll see if we can look to short the market after FOMC, but pre-FOMC, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult unless we can get underneath our previous day highs, which in this case is going to be that 6992. So if you break underneath this, use this level as a potential retest, then we could be looking for continuation back towards the downside. But ultimately, as I mentioned, longs are going to be in play above your previous day highs. Shorts are going to be in play underneath their previous day highs, but it might be a little bit more difficult. So we'll have to wait for a strong break and then weak price action here as well. So this is what we have on the ES coming into today. Let's head on to the SPY chart here. So for the SPY, you can see exact same levels that we have marked out. What we have here is our 694. We end up having this nice push towards the upside yesterday above our last week's highs. And I can see so far that first step is being bought up. So we are above your previous day highs here in the pre-market. If you do want to see longs, now it's going to, of course, be above your previous day highs for continuation towards the upside. So we can be looking for longs above our 694 for continuation. Another possible scenario, as I mentioned, above your pre-market high, longs above your 695 and hold above that level for a push up and towards this 696. Someone mentioned in the chat, I cannot hear. It should be good. Let me see. Bit rate's good. Can you guys type in the chat? You guys should be able to hear me. I think it's most likely on your end. You can refresh the stream and it should be all good. Can you guys type 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me and see my screen? You're good. 111. Okay, perfect. Also, if you guys do have any charts or, of course, any tickers, you guys can start dropping those in the chat here as well. If you guys are enjoying this stream, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that, of course, is in the description below here as well. Okay, perfect. All right, as you can see here for the SPYs, I mentioned key level here is going to be that 694 along with our pre-market high 695. Another possible long, yeah, the longs really are going to be above your previous day highs. Potential shorts in play, as I mentioned, underneath your previous day highs for a push down in towards our previous day close and potentially below. But as I mentioned, for SPY and the rest of the major indices, we're holding up very nicely so far coming into this week. We'd like to see really maintain above this previous day highs, 694. Okay, now let's go on to the Nasdaq, the QQQ. So as you can see here for the QQQ, what we have marked out here is going to be that higher time frame point of interest. We also have our last week's highs marked out here as well. And now we have this higher time frame key level, which is a key level of resistance that now the market is currently at, which is that 628 on the QQQ. So coming into today, as you can see, we end up having this nice break and retest here on the higher time frames. And as you can see, buyers stepped in nicely. And now we're having this really solid push in the overnight session. This is primarily due to Apple and a few other tickers that are moving the markets up nicely. So really nice break and retest right off our key level in the overnight session yesterday, pushing back towards the upside here now. So moving forward on the overall indices, what we can have marked out is going to be that previous day highs. And now we can have marked out is this higher time frame key level, this 26,000. So we can mark out this level, we can mark out that previous day highs. Now, if we do want to see continuation here in the overall markets, we have a couple scenarios that we're going to be looking for. So with the overall QQQ and NQ at a key level of resistance, we either like to see now longs above your pre-market high for continuation. This might be a little bit more difficult just because we already had such a big push up. We had that nice retest in the after hours. So this is a possible scenario. Another possible scenario, if we get that pullback longs back down in towards that previous day highs. Of course, this would be the best scenario for longs with the lowest risk and the highest reward for this continuation back towards the upside. Another possible scenario here now is going to be that first dip and then potential buyers kind of stepping in off this 25,960. So a couple scenarios here for the NQ coming into market open. As I mentioned, the higher time frames for me is fairly bullish, specifically on the NQ. A couple tech names bouncing nicely here as well, like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. We have Meta. So a bunch of these names are bouncing nicely after lagging for a very long time. And of course, the semis now are having a little bit of a pullback. But we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is what we have for the NQ coming into today. Really the key level, pre-market highs plus your previous day highs. Similar thesis here for the QQQ. So as you can see right here, what we have is a higher time frame key level. So as you can see, if you go on to the daily chart, what we have here is higher lows being built. As you can see here, higher lows are being built on the higher time frames. Now what we like to see is the continuation above your 628 for this push up in towards our higher time frame key level, which of course is our all-time highs. So if we can break above our 628, we can see this push up in towards our all-time highs. Of course, as I mentioned, we do have tons of news this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up closing above our 628. And then of course, coming to FOMC, potentially we have that nice push up in towards that higher time frame objective, which is at all-time highs. But as you can see here, as I mentioned, key level is going to be that 628. So we can have that drawn out. Really for me, this is my higher time frame key level coming into market open, which is that 628, 629. So for the QQQ coming into market open, as you can see, nice kind of retest off that Friday's highs last week for that continuation towards the upside. Now the key levels that we're going to have marked out, as I mentioned, is going to be that 629. And we can also mark out our previous day highs, which is that 627. So let's mark out this previous day highs, and we can drag this over here as well. So coming into market open here today for the QQQ, we have a couple key levels to keep an eye out for. Number one is going to be this pre-market low / our last week's highs. So we like to see buyers step in for this continued push towards the upside right off the bat for that first dip and rip towards the upside. Another possible scenario, opening drive play, we can be looking for longs above your pre-market highs for continuation. And of course, another possible scenario, if price comes all the way back down in towards that previous day highs, we could be looking for that previous day high bounce or the reclaim much later into the session. So as you can see right here, we have quite a few scenarios for the QQQ. With this gap up here, we're going to be a little bit more patient coming into today. As I mentioned, we are net long coming into FOMC, but with the markets now already being at their 628, we just have to be a little bit more cautious. With the QQQ, we do want to see the break and now hold above that 628. And then we have a bunch of other tech names that we do have. So we'll keep an eye out on this as well. And now let's go on to the SMH, and then we'll head on to a bunch of other tech names here as well. As for shorts, as I mentioned, be very cautious on shorts. Of course, shorts are in play underneath our 629. But of course, now we're well above our previous day highs. It's going to have to do quite a bit for a short position lower. I would just be very cautious since the overall higher time frame market is bullish. Okay, let's go on to the SMH. We'll kind of talk about the semis here, still holding up very nicely. And then we'll head on to some tech names. If you guys do have any questions, or sorry, if you guys do have any charts, we probably can't answer questions today since we're very busy. But if you guys have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys do have, if you have any charts or any tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat. If you did enjoy this, or sorry, if you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that one, of course, is in the description below here as well. Okay, I see some questions here. Oh, also, yeah, sorry, I was not actually home yesterday, so that's why I didn't have the pre-market prep, or didn't end up making a trade review, just because I came home very late last night. But I'll have that up for you guys today. I'll talk about the trade that I took yesterday, and I'll talk about the trade that I took if I do take any trades today as well. Overall asset, does this work for options? Yeah, right now we're just charting the underlying. So the underlying, most of these names we do trade options on as well. Of course, we're not going to trade options on futures, but for the rest of the tickers like SPY Qs and the rest of the tech names and some other high beta names, we can be looking to trade the options as well. Okay, let's first talk about the SMH. So as you can see here, for the SMH, the overall higher time frame is still very much intact. We had a little bit of a pullback last week. We had some Intel earnings that kind of dropped the overall markets towards the downside, but you can see the overall SMH still very much bullish on the higher time frames, and we're going to be looking for continuation towards the upside. So as you can see right here, nice kind of hold. We're just kind of consolidating a bit here on the SMH in between this range, between that 405 along with our 397. What we like to see here primarily on the SMH is going to be the break back above this 404. So the break back above this 404 is going to push this back up and towards our all-time highs, 409 on the SMH. We could see a little bit of a rejection here, so something to keep in mind. But as I mentioned, key level longs above our 405 for continuation higher is going to be in play. If it rejects, we could be looking for the reclaim later into the session on the SMH. We do have to be a little bit cautious just because we are in a key resistance level. We could potentially reject off this level and come right back down in towards our previous day highs. So with this being in mind, you can see the SMH is a little bit weaker compared to the overall markets today. You can see we have our Monday's price action. We're having this nice little gap towards the upside compared to the keys, which is a little bit more bullish, and of course the SPY. But for the SMH, let's kind of go on to some tech names here in a second. But let's first start off with Tesla. So Tesla here does have earnings on, as I mentioned, Wednesday. Also, if you guys do have any tickers, I see a couple of people spamming. I will get to them in a second. Don't worry. You don't have to keep spamming them. For Tesla, as you can see right here, what we have is earnings on Thursday, but we're having a little bit of a drop towards the downside. So as you can see right here, key levels on Tesla is our Friday's lows of last week. And as you can see, the overall market ended up pushing higher. Tesla ended up dropping lower yesterday. So the key levels that we have marked out really is going to be this 438. As you can see, this is a higher time frame point of interest, drop within the first 15 minutes of market open. And then we kind of just consolidated around this level the rest of the day. Now for today, the key level is still going to be this 438. If we do want to see some upside here, upside above our 438 for continuation towards the highs. If we do want to see some downside potential rejection off this level for a push down in towards our previous day lows. For Tesla, I'm not as interested in trading this one. I'll most likely just wait for earnings, which is going to be on Wednesday. So I'll be a little bit more hands off on Tesla. And then we can be looking for an after earnings play just because there's no really clear direction on Tesla. The past, I'd say, month on Tesla has been very difficult. I haven't traded Tesla in, I think, 3 weeks or maybe a little bit longer. So normally I trade Tesla quite often, multiple times a week, but within the past 3 weeks, there hasn't been too much opportunity on Tesla. So I haven't looked to take any trades on this one. So just be a little bit more cautious with earnings, of course, tomorrow after close, plus no clear direction. So you just want to wait for after earnings. Let's go into NVIDIA. So NVIDIA here has been lagging the overall indices. And specifically the SMH in itself. So as you can see here for NVIDIA, let's go on to the daily chart. This is really one of the only semiconductors that has not made a brand new high. If you're looking at the SMH, we're at all-time highs, right? NVIDIA, nice push up and towards our all-time highs last week. As I mentioned, a little bit of rejection. We have MU, TSM, Intel. All of these ones end up having a super solid push towards the upside compared to NVIDIA, which is really just kind of consolidating in this general area. So for NVIDIA, if we go into the 1 hour time frame, you can kind of see even on the 1 hour time frame, a lot of consolidation. And now we're just kind of back inside this general area, which is this 186. So as you can see, 186, higher time frame point of interest. You can see a little bit of buyers kind of stepping in off this 186. If we do want to see upside, we like to see the hold of our 186, but now we like to see honestly the break above our previous day highs for continuation. So for NVIDIA coming into today, the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be our last week's highs, and of course that 186. And then we can also mark out that previous day highs general area as well. So if you do want to see some upside, either the bounce off your 186 for a pushback towards the highs, another possible scenario, some sort of opening range break for this continuation, or of course now it's going to be above our previous day highs for this continued push towards upside here as well. So this is what we have on NVIDIA coming into today. This one a little bit harder just because we have been consolidating compared to some other semiconductors that we'll talk about. But this is what we have for NVIDIA coming into today. As for AMD, so let's talk about AMD. Super solid push towards the upside last week. We essentially nailed this trade up and towards our all-time highs. And now you can see exactly where some sellers are taking profits, and a little bit of reaction that we're having is off this all-time highs key level. So what we have here is that all-time highs 265. Now let's go back on to the lower time frames. So as you can see, what we have here is, as I mentioned, that 266, which is that all-time highs, a little bit of rejection. Now the key levels is just going to be that 252. Now we just wait for really AMD to consolidate. So after hitting that all-time highs, it's pulling back a little bit here. We're just going to wait for it to consolidate for that next leg towards the upside. But moving forward on AMD, key level, as I mentioned, is going to be this 252. If you do want to see upside, we like to see kind of this bounce play off this 252 for push back up and towards our previous day highs. Another possible scenario here now is going to be that pre-market high retest for a push higher. But as I mentioned, we hit all-time highs last week, so we're going to be a little bit more cautious on the semis until we can really break back above our previous day highs for continuation. Shorts are actually in play here on AMD underneath our previous day low, so that is something to keep in mind. Underneath that 251, we can potentially see a little bit of a bigger pullback down in towards that 247. So this is what we have for AMD coming into market open. Now let's head on to Apple. So Apple, Microsoft, Google, these are the ones that have been leading nicer, specifically this week compared to the rest of the tickers. Apple does have earnings on Thursday, but this has showed nice relative strength. So Apple here, really solid bounce, kind of right off our key level, which we talked about last week, right off that 243. You can see key level of support, and now you can see some buyers are stepping in here, and now we're having this nice kind of V-shaped recovery on Apple back towards the upside. So for Apple coming into today and moving forward, what are the key levels that we have marked out? As you can see, we're having this nice V-shaped recovery, and we're gravitating back up and towards this consolidation. My main target here for Apple is going to be this 261. So that's the level I like to see it gravitate up and towards today, or 261 here on the higher time frames. So for Apple, keep an eye out on your previous day highs. Of course, this is a very steep pullback. I don't think Apple is going to pull back all the way in towards our previous day highs. So we're going to have to base it off of intraday price action and a couple of your pre-market levels coming to today. But Apple is going to be my main watch for a trade up and towards that 261.50. What I'll be looking for is a potential kind of dip and rip here on Apple for a push up in towards that into that 261. Another possible scenario here is going to be that dip all the way back down in towards that previous day highs. As I mentioned, I don't think Apple's going to gravitate all the way back down here. If it does, we could be looking for the pullback longs, but if the buyers step in with that first dip, we could be looking for the first dip, or we could be looking for the reclaim entry right off the bat for this continued push up and towards that 261. So this is what I have for Apple coming into today. As I mentioned, this is going to be one of my main watches, just based off the higher time frames, just based off the relative strength on Monday, and of course now gapping up here as well. So showing a lot of strength. Let's keep an eye out on Apple. Normally, we don't look to trade Apple just because there's no momentum, but whenever we do have news and whenever we do have a higher time frame thesis, Apple does actually tend to move nicely, but that's only when we have momentum on this ticker. So keep an eye out on Apple coming into market open. Now let's go on to Google. So as you can see here, what we have is going to be this 335 along with our all-time high. So for Google, this is one of my favorite looking charts here as well. So if you go into this higher time frame, you can see higher lows are being built nicely. Now we have room back up and towards our all-time highs. So let's keep an eye out on Google above our previous day highs coming into market open. It's going to be above that 335. So as you can see, all-time highs, and we also have your previous day highs. So for Google, what we're going to keep an eye out on coming into market open, the dip down and towards our previous day highs for continuation back towards the upside. Another possible scenario here is, of course, going to be now the break above our pre-market highs for a push back up and towards our all-time highs. So this is what we have for this is what we have for Google coming to market open. Let's keep an eye out on this push up in towards that 341 here on the higher time frames. Let's keep an eye out on this one. As for Meta, this one super solid bounce here as well. So if you're looking at this on the daily chart, really solid bounce right off our key level of support. Now we're gravitating back up and towards this key gap, which as you can see is this daily gap from earnings. This was all the way back from November of last year. Multiple touches here. If we can break above this gap, we can see some nice continuation towards the upside here on Meta. If we reject off this gap, then we're just going to come right back towards the downside. So keep an eye out on this key level. It's going to be that 780 here on the higher time frames. If we do want to see some upside, we basically went from your key level support back up and towards resistance. If we do want to see long positions here now on Meta, what we have here is a couple scenarios. We have your 674. We could be looking for longs above your 674 for continuation higher. Another possible scenario, the dip down in towards your 666 for this continuation back towards the highs here as well. So this is what we have for Meta coming into market open. We also just had 8:30. A little bit behind on schedule, but as I mentioned, we have tons of things to go over today. As for Amazon, this one looks good here as well. So we end up having this nice bounce, kind of creating this mini flat top break here on Amazon. So let's see if we can break above. It's going to be this 240.50. So this year, previous day highs, a little bit of rejection yesterday. You can see this rejection here on Friday. What we like to see now, break above our 240.50 for this continued push towards the upside here on Amazon. This one looks good, as I mentioned, a little bit of a flat top forming. If we can break above, retest, we can be looking for a continuation above our previous day high. So keep an eye out on Amazon coming into market open. As for Microsoft, let's keep an eye out on this one here as well. We do have earnings this week, so any name that does have earnings, be a lot more cautious. It's best to honestly wait for after earnings and after FOMC, since we have a lot of red folder news, plus we have a bunch of big tech reporting. It's best to be very cautious. If you are looking to trade, you can do a couple things. You can trade futures because there's no Greeks. Another possible scenario is you can size down pre-earnings, because especially with the IV being super high, a lot of times as well, even if you get the direction right, you're not going to make as much money just because the IV is going to be super elevated, because everyone's waiting for earnings. Right, everyone's going to be waiting for red folder news, for earnings, because any move that happens pre-earnings isn't going to be as significant as after earnings. So for Microsoft, coming into market open, what we have here is our 470. The hold of our 470 here is going to be key for continuation, or now, of course, above our previous day highs for this continued push back towards the upside. So keep this in mind for Microsoft. And of course, for Netflix, a little bit of a bounce. After this drop on earnings, this one has consolidated a little bit more. So coming into today, especially on the Mag 7 with the Qs kind of at this key level of resistance, what I'm going to keep an eye on, of course, is the Qs off this 629. My favorite name towards the upside is Apple. But I already had such a big push towards the upside, but we do have room up and towards that 262. So we'll keep an eye on Apple coming into today. We'll kind of look at some of these semis here as well. So if you guys do have any tickers or any charts, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Okay. It's already 8:33. Let me grab some water here and then we'll head on to some other tickers. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Good morning. Okay, let's go on to MU. So let's go into some of these semiconductors that we have marked out. These ones are still holding up on the higher time frames. So as you can see here, MU higher time frame is still holding up very nicely. Every single dip being bought up, and we're just having some nice continuation towards the upside. So as you can see here for MU coming into market open, the key levels that we have is just your previous all-time highs. So as you can see, nice little gap up. Now we're right back at your all-time highs, and we're having a little bit of rejection here in the pre-market. So if you do want to see continuation, there's really two scenarios. Number one, the dip all the way back down in towards that previous day highs, and we could be looking for the bounce play off that 398. This is a possible scenario. Another one is going to be the opening range break for push up in towards that previous day highs. Sorry, opening range break for a push up in towards our previous all-time highs, which is that 412. Or of course, now we could be looking for longs above our last week's highs, along with our pre-market highs for that continuation above your 412. Sorry. So this is what we have for MU coming into market open. We'll see what happens within the first 5 to 15 minutes on this ticker. If we do have that strong push, we can be looking for continuation. If we do just reject, then keep an eye out on that pullback long back down in towards that 398. So this is what we have for MU coming into today. As for a few other names to keep an eye out for, let's go on to TSM. So TSM actually looks fairly good here as well. We have a lot of consolidation last week, and now we're breaking back towards the upside. So keep an eye out on this one. Higher time frame, still very much bullish, right? Higher lows are being bought up, right? Market structure is being maintained. Now you can be looking for that continued push back up and towards our all-time highs on this one as well. So key level that you're going to have marked out is now just going to be your high that we created here from Friday of last week. So we can drag this over. As you can see, key level is going to be that 337. Bounce play off that 337. We can see this push back towards the upside. Another possible scenario, of course, is now going to be above our 339.50 previous day highs. Intel, not too much to talk about here. Ended up having bad earnings report, pretty big gap towards the downside, sorry. And now we're just right back inside of this consolidation. This is where I like to see, right, Intel start forming a base and then slowly eventually pushing back towards the highs. But for now, I'll be a little bit more cautious on Intel. Key levels is, as I mentioned, that earnings low. And we also have our 45 key psychological level here as well. So this is what we have for Intel. Let me actually just make this. Now let's go on to a few other tickers. Let's go into SanDisk. So SanDisk, as you can see, still holding up as well. So for the overall markets, some of these semiconductors still holding up nicely, but we've just been consolidating the past couple of days. So for SanDisk, SNDK, as you can see, really solid push towards upside on the daily chart. Now we're having a little bit of consolidation. If you do want to see any sort of continued push back towards the highs here on SanDisk, key levels that we have marked out is really this right here, 500 key psych level, and we also have our 456. If we do want to see some upside now on SanDisk, we either want to see that bounce off that 456 off our key level of support, or now of course it's going to be the break above our 500 key psych level for a continued push back up and towards our all-time highs. So this is what we have for SanDisk coming into today. As for a couple other tickers, UNH, we had some news in the pre-market. I see some of you guys talking about this one, but this one's breaking towards the downside here. The news event that we had in this morning dropped it by almost 15%. So pretty big drop towards the downside. If you're in this long term, just keep this in mind. We are coming back down into a key level of support. If you're looking for a day trade on this one, the key levels coming into market open here is going to be your 302. And then we also have our 290 here as well. So this is what we have for UNH. If you do want to see some potential downside, you can be looking for the pop and fade. Sorry. Pop and fade, key level that we have is off your 302. And then we also have shorts in play underneath your 290. So these are the key levels that we have coming into market open here on UNH. As for a few other tickers, let's go on to Hood and SoFi. These ones have had a little bit of a pullback, specifically on these high beta names. Haven't really been bouncing with the overall market, so just be a little bit more cautious on those ones. Palantir, this one kind of right at a key level support here as well. So a couple of these high beta names not really bouncing with the overall market, so that is something to keep in mind. As for Oracle, a little bit of a bounce here off your key level support, but we are actually rejecting off this 186. So be a little bit more cautious of that if you're trading this name. And then of course, if we go on to AVGO, this one right at a key level support as well, which is our higher time frame daily gap and essentially our previous all-time high. So for AVGO, if the levels, let me actually mark this up. So we have our previous all-time highs, 320. Now I'd like to see buyers step in for this reversal back towards the highs. So if you're interested in AVGO, the key reclaim, I actually haven't marked out this chart in a while. It does look good. So the key levels that we are going to have marked out is going to be that 326. And now you can see markets are finding some buyers here off that 314, reclaiming back above that 324. You like to see now hold above that 324 and now above your previous day highs for this continuation back towards that 336. So that's what we have for AVGO coming into market open. Let's go over IWM, since a couple of you guys are mentioning this. IWM here, key level that we have marked out, 267 along with that 263. Bounce play off that 263, or now, of course, above that 267 for continuation towards the upside. As for, let's go into gold and silver quickly. So gold and silver still holding up compared to the overall markets, right? Nice break and retest that we talked about. Hit our key psychological level as well, which is our 5,000. Now for gold, every single dip has been bought up. Key levels that we're going to have marked out is now just going to be that all-time highs. So if you do want to see continuation here now, we can have a couple things marked out, right? All-time highs for continuation, or we can see that kind of pull back down in towards that gap that we already bounced from previously, which is that 5,000 key psychological level. As for silver, a little bit of a pullback. One thing to mention is don't try and short. It's very difficult to try and time a top. So if you're looking to trade this, right, intraday, or if you're looking for a short-term trade, right, look for major dips to go long towards the upside. If you try and short silver, try and short gold, eventually these are going to pull back. But if you try and time the top, they are very difficult. It's a lot easier to trade within the trend. And for shorts, it's a lot easier when there's some sort of news catalyst or some clear exhaustion is in place. So far, every single dip has been bought up, and we still have not broken market structure whatsoever here on the higher time frames. As for silver, very, very volatile. So if you are looking to trade this intraday, key levels now that you're going to have marked out is, of course, your all-time highs. And the next key level I have is going to be this 109. So this 109 is a very key level, as you can see. Nice kind of break, retest towards the downside. Once we reclaim back above, we end up having a nice push higher. So this is the key levels that I have coming to market open. If you can maintain above that 109, we can see this continuation higher. And of course, now above this key point of interest, we can see a push back up and towards our all-time highs. So this is what we have coming into market open. Now let's go over the game plan coming to today, and then I'm going to get ready for market open here. So I'm actually just grab some water. So coming into today and coming into tomorrow. So the main thing here, as I mentioned, is news. So we have to keep that in mind. We have some consumer confidence at 10 a.m. today. But the main thing here is FOMC statement tomorrow, plus the press conference. And then of course, we have earnings tomorrow after close. And then we have Apple and some other names here as well. So this is the main thing in the market. Anything that happens beforehand is going to be a little bit more difficult. And now specifically with the markets kind of gravitating higher, we're having this gap up in the market here as well. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for intraday trades. especially now we're at a key level of resistance, which is this 628. So coming into market open here for the QQQ and the overall indices, we can be looking for longs right off the bat. If you can get above this 628, or if you can get above your pre-market high, you could be looking for continuation. Of course, shorts are in play underneath the 628 for a push down in towards our previous day highs. As for the SPY, similar kind of thesis here. I personally just like to see SPY maintain above your previous day highs for this continued push up in towards your 696. As for my main watches coming to market open, what I'm going to be looking for is really primarily Apple. This one, super solid push towards the upside, a lot of relative strength yesterday. Another gap up here in the pre-market as well. I'm going to be looking for that first dip to get bought up here on Apple. You can be looking for that first dip or the reclaim back above our opening range high for a push up in towards that 261. Apple is my favorite looking ticker, and then we can keep an eye on Google here as well above our previous day highs for this potential push up and towards that 340. So this is what we have on Google coming into today. As for everything else, we can potentially keep an eye on Meta above your previous day highs here. So really Apple, Google, Meta, at a key level of resistance, but we can keep an eye out on longs above your previous day highs, and even Amazon here as well, flat top break forming. If you can break above that 240.50, we can see a pushback towards the upside. And then for some other tickers, Microsoft above your 470, but as I mentioned, just be very cautious pre-FOMC and pre-earnings. I am going to be a little bit more sized down beforehand, and then we could be looking to take trades after a clear direction after earnings, as I mentioned, and then after FOMC. As for a couple other things that we do have, MU here, keep an eye out on your previous day highs, and of course that last week's highs for continuation towards the upside. And then TSM, we'll keep an eye out on this one. Key level here is a 337. And then even potentially SanDisk if there's some sort of big break, but most likely going to be a little bit more patient on SanDisk since we do have earnings on Thursday. So as I mentioned, coming into today, just be a little bit more cautious. We have a couple things that we are going to be looking for: Apple, Google, Meta above your previous day highs, along with potentially Amazon. The key thing is to be a little bit more defensive on the first 3 days of the week, pre-FOMC and pre-earnings. I'm going to keep mentioning that just because the IV is going to be high. It's going to be a little bit harder to trade intraday until we get that clear direction after FOMC and after earnings. So keep that in mind when you are trading. Besides that, that is most likely going to be it for me today. There's kind of a lot of things to go over. Probably missed a bunch of things as well since it was our first day back after the weekend. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy that. See some of you guys asking some questions. 6 indicators used for trading view in advance. Oh, they're just VWAP. I just have a couple key level indicators that draw them out that we have within Traders Lab. This is an indicator, but it's just basically VWAP, 9 EMAs, a couple EMAs, and some other things. But primarily, I just mark out these higher time frame key levels. That, of course, is on the second channel. I see some of you guys asking about live trading. Yeah, that one is also in the description as well. And yeah, that's about it. So that is going to be it for me today. As I mentioned earlier, or I've mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I have trade recaps every single day on my second channel. So keep an eye on that for today. I'm going to make the one that I missed yesterday as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like if you guys haven't already. And yeah. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. That one's going to be action-packed, of course, with earnings and FOMC. And I hope you guys stay safe out there. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.